Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the episode number 3, My Retention Experience, MRE. Tonight, we're going to be going over the different GI Bill programs, and we're going to have some amazing folks from the Education Incentives branch up at HRC jump on tonight and actually talk about that with us. So thank you again for joining us. I know that it's a mixture of spring break. We're just getting back from a 4-day. So if you make time to be here with us tonight, I promise it's not just going to be worth it for you, but it's going to be worth it for your soldiers. It's going to be worth it for your family members, and it's going to be worth it for your friends. This is a very valuable topic that we're just going to jump right into. So I'd like to bring our crew on board really fast so you can meet all the different faces of the Education Incentives branch. So we've got Mr. Narain, Mr. Lohoff, and Mr. Huther. Let me make sure I'm getting them right. Huther. That's right. Lohoff. That's right. And Mr. Narain.
Very good. Now, mine's the hardest of all of
them. Gentlemen, I can't tell you how much we appreciate having you on board with us tonight. We're going to have a fantastic night and have some dinner together. So what I want to do is I want to give each one of you a chance to just give us a quick welcome. Tell us what you do on the team. Tell us what MRE you were given. And then as you're setting that up, I'd like to give you, 1 or 2 minutes to talk about your very first retention experience. Now that can be good. It can be bad. It can be, a reenlistment ceremony. It could be meeting a career counselor. It can be whatever it is. The whole point is whatever that was to you. So let's go ahead and start with you, Mr. Narain.
Well, okay. So hello, everyone. My first retention experience was I came in as an E0 private, and I intended to do 3 years for God and country. And near the end of my enlistment period, I was guarding the motor pool. I was a 13 Fox. So we were actually guarding. We were out in the motor pool doing PMCS in our Humvees. And my lieutenant came up and said, "Hey, Narain, your enlistment is coming due. Do you want to re-enlist?" And that was kind of struck me as kind of a momentous decision because I hadn't thought about it. And the 3 years have snuck up on me. And so I re-enlisted, and my 3-year intent turned into 28 years. I punched out in 2016. So for my MRE, I got chicken noodle and vegetables, which is actually pretty dang good.
That's not a bad one for the weather right now.
Not. See, the luck of the Irish.
I like it.
And that's my story. Army's family to me. I grew up in the Army.
That's fantastic. What was your first retention experience?
So I guess it would be that. It was when I came in. I mean, when I was offered the chance to be retained, and then I had to do this quick calculus because I wasn't given a lot of time to think about it. I was in a motor pool. I was doing PMCS. The lieutenant calls me over. I think at the time I made E3. And I had that instantaneous calculus because he literally, once I said, "Yeah, I'll re-enlist," he grabbed me and walked me over to the, I guess he didn't want me to change my mind. I walked up to the S1 and we cranked out the paperwork right then and there to do the re-enlistment. So he grabbed that low-hanging fruit really fast.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And look, I mean, it turned out fantastic for you and for the Army.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. While you're getting your MRE set up, let's move over to Mr. Huther.
My retention experience basically started in the Army Reserve. To be honest, I was playing hooky from high school, and I convinced my mom to drop me off at the recruiting office, and I signed up pretty much that day. Served 9 years in the reserves, and the job I had disappeared. So I went back. So I went on active duty. Then the first time I re-enlisted while I was active duty, I was still stationed at Fort Irwin at NTC. And I really enjoyed my time there. And so I volunteered for a 12-month stabilization at NTC.
Iron Horse. That's all I got to say.
Yeah, I was with the Black Horse.
Iron Horse leads the way.
And that kind of morphed itself into 29 and a half years of service between the Army Reserves and active duty.
And then what do you do on the education incentives branch?
I'm one of the GI Bill analysts. I answer a lot of the email questions as well as the congressionals and ARBA inquiries, VA inquiries to verify eligibility, just questions that people would have to verify various things that's in the record.
Okay. And
And
what are you having for dinner with us tonight?
my MRE is the beef patty jalapeno pepper jack.
Interesting. That doesn't sound half bad.
Well, we'll see.
All right. Thank you
see.
so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Let's move over to Mr. Loha.
Good evening, everybody. So my job at the Education Center branch is I'm the GI Bill team lead. Mr. Rain is my boss, and I work with Mr. Huther. I also work in the team email box and do a little work on the congressionals and ARBA advisory opinions, and do mostly research. As far as my retention experience goes, I originally I was born and raised in Germany, enlisted over there, came to Fort Knox as a 19 Echo for OSET, and as a 2-year enlistee. Came to Fort Knox in December, cold, wet, miserable. And I was intent to do my 2 years and then move out. Towards the end of the cycle, I got orders to stay in Fort Knox as part of the 194th Separate Armored Brigade. And I get the drill sergeant calls me in the office and says, "Hey, the sergeant major wants to talk to all the 2-year enlistees." I said, "About what, drill sergeant?" "Well, about extending." And I looked at the drill sergeant and I said, "Drill sergeant, why would I want to extend here in Fort Knox?" And he looks up at me and says, "Well, there's your ticket back to Germany if you enlist, if you extend." So got the call to the battalion classroom. Sergeant major came in, talked a little bit. And he said, "Yeah, if you extend for a year, you get to go back to Germany." And I was like, "Sign me up." So that was my very first retention experience.
I love it. Why exactly did you decide to join the Army in the first place?
Had nothing better to do, really. I went through the German school system, and I wasn't ready for college, and so I figured do 2 years, get a little bit of college money, and then move on with my life. And the 2 years turned into 26 years.
It's crazy how it happens, right?
Yep.
Okay, final question. What are you having for dinner with us tonight?
Well, I was really, really, really hoping for chili mac, but I ended up
But
with beef stew.
that's, in my opinion, that one's better.
No,
That one's my all-time fave.
absolutely not. Mr. Huther, I need to trade you your jalapeno pepper jack cheese.
It's gonna be a little hard to trade.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see you guys make that work out. All right. So for everybody watching tonight, you have heard my spiel on the last 2 episodes. So I won't bore you with that one again. But I can tell you I bleed green, and I'm gonna bleed green until they kick me out. I am a career counselor by trade. So my first retention experience was re-enlisting and reclassing. But I think as a career counselor, I strive to give that perfect first retention experience to soldiers now. That's what I want to do, is give that perfect experience and explain exactly what their options are. My dinner, it better not be spinach fettuccine again. I got pork sausage patty, maple flavored. I have never got to try this one before. This is a new one for me, so I'm excited. I dig this one. Okay, so while I'm getting this heated up and ready to go, because I heat mine up. But while I'm getting it ready, Mr. Narain, let's go ahead and kick it off and start talking about GI Bill programs. Like, give us the scoop on
Sure.
all things GI Bill.
So I will warn you, I am an Amway salesman when it comes to the GI Bill, right? I hit soldiers up in HRC, not when they're going to the bathroom, but when, like, in the parking lot, they're fair game. And so why the GI Bill? Well, one, there are really three flavors of GI Bill. There's the legacy program called the Montgomery GI Bill active duty, which has its lineage back to the old World War II GI Bill. And that came into being in the 1980s, 1985 timeframe, 1980s. The new kid on the block, the second flavor, is the post 9/11 GI Bill, which I think most soldiers are familiar with. And Sarah Palmer, I hit you up with that when we first talked. I said, did you transfer your benefits?
100%, you asked me right away.
I did, because and there's a third one called the Montgomery GI Bill Select Reserve, which is available to the reserve component soldiers. Of all three of those flavors, the post 9/11 is the only one you can gift to your dependents, and it is an incredible benefit. It is right now a $9 billion program just to post 9/11 alone by itself. That's a year, $9 billion a year.
Goodness.
That is a freaking lot of zeros, right? My wife, I'm not only the branch chief that runs that program, but I'm also a recipient. So I gifted my GI Bill to my wife, and she went to law school, and that was $160,000 education in which my family, got paid for her to go to law school. I don't know any other incentive, even bonuses, that will do something like that. So it is an incredible incentive. And we're going to dwell mostly on the post 9/11 because the Montgomery GI Bill active duty program is scheduled to sunset in 2030. It's going away. And then only in some rare cases does it pay more than a post 9/11. And 99% of the time, 99.9% of the time, the post 9/11 GI Bill will pay about twice as much as the Montgomery GI Bill. That's right. Use your teeth. Love that field.
I was sitting here fighting it forever to put it open.
That's hilarious. It's awesome. I thought I was the one that did that.
My fault.
But anyway, so it's an incredible. I'm passionate about this program. Army is family to me. So, and we are the functional proponent for the Army, for the regular Army and for the reserves. The National Guard, my counterpart, Don Sutton, runs the Guard. And we get to see, not only do we process all of y'all's requests when you transfer to your family, called TEB requests, transfer requests. We do the evaluations at our end. We get to see all of the soldiers who run afoul of the program, and it breaks our heart when they either they're not eligible because they waited too long to transfer, or they didn't complete the program's requirements and they either lost the program, or worse yet, if they violate the program, just like a bonus, there's a recoupment piece if you fail to meet the obligation, and that's averaging but like $42,000. But we've seen it as high, right, Eric? As high as like 180K.
Yes.
Oh my
and it
gosh.
hits a soldier when they're getting out. So you just retired or you just got out, and for whatever reason, and you didn't complete that 4-year additional duty service obligation, and you just got hit with a $180,000 bill that the VA and the IRS are now going to recoup from you. That's not pleasant, and there's nothing we can do to help that soldier. Because
that's terrifying.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say there is, we administer the GI Bill programs, all three flavors. We support the VA in administering the Montgomery GI Bill active duty and the post 9/11. Their VA programs are under Title 38. We support the VA on the Army side by administering it. All services have, like, our counterparts over in the Air Force, the Marine Corps, Navy. So we are part of a larger DoD community that supports the VA by administering that one small piece of determining eligibility for our service. That makes sense? But everything else, all the mechanics, all the payouts, all that stuff is on the VA side. So what else by the way, Mr. Rain, that was my dad. So Ray, that every time I hear Mr. Rain, I'm like, I'm in trouble. Eric does it to me all the time, and I start looking over my shoulder. And by the way, Eric's secondary
I can't help
duty
it.
assignment. Yeah, I know. Eric's secondary duty assignment is keeping me out of trouble, and so is Derek's. By the way, that's it.
Okay. So I think a lot of people watching are going to be really interested in, some of the criteria. I think a lot of it, so especially with retention, one of the parts is informing soldiers what the requirements are to transfer their GI Bill or their post 9/11 GI Bill to their dependents. And so us as counselors, we tell soldiers the time requirement, how long they have to be in service already, what the commitment is, the 4-year commitment from the day they transfer, and things like that. But do you think that there's anything that is really valuable for somebody to know if they're debating on transferring their GI Bill benefit to one of their dependents?
That's a great question, and I'm going to punt some of this to Eric and Derek. But what I will say, and then I'll punt it to Eric, is one, don't wait. Soldiers become eligible at the 6-year mark. So there is 2 components to the transfer. Well, the statement is this: soldiers earn the post 9/11 GI Bill because of their active duty service. The ability to gift it to dependents is a retention incentive, which falls directly in your world. And just like a bonus, any kind of aviation bonus or any kind of retention bonus, it works the exact same way. And it requires a 4-year additional duty service obligation. So a soldier becomes eligible at the 6-year mark. At that point, they can, if they meet all the other criteria, honorable period of service, no negative action flags, yada, yada. They can transfer it to their DEERS eligible dependents. The dependents have got to be loaded in DEERS. And then they can transfer it to them. And then once they're approved, then they incur that 4-year ADSO. So why 4 years? So the Army in its infinite wisdom knows that at the 6-year mark, if you give you something like a 4-year retention, you get to the 10-year mark. And Sarnunez gave me the stats on this. The retention stats at the 10-year mark is incredible. It's like 80%, right? So our goal is to get those soldiers to the 10-year mark. And then the Army, then we can offer other incentives like retention bonuses, skills bonuses, assignments, those kinds of things to keep them. Because if you think about it, what rank is a soldier on average at the 6-year mark? If they're an NCO, right, they're probably like an E6, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're an officer, they're captain moving into major, or they're a warrant officer. What's that skill worth in the civilian sector? And how hard would it be the Army to replicate that skill, right? It's really difficult. So it becomes really imperative that we hold on to that talent pool. So it's also a talent management tool. If that makes any sense.
Right. Absolutely.
So
That makes sense.
Take it away, Eric.
All right. As Mr. Marine said, the first requirement is the soldier has to have 6 years time in service in the armed forces. It doesn't matter if it's whatever branch. We sometimes deal with individuals that came from a different branch. That's the first requirement. Second one is the soldier has to have 4 years of retainability. This is where the retention NCOs come in. We get a lot of requests from soldiers that request TEP on the MilConnect website. And then as we do the research, they're anywhere from a couple of months to 2 years short to be able to fulfill that 4-year additional service obligation. And then we tell them, hey, you need to go talk to your retention NCO, either extend or re-enlist, so you can meet the 4-year additional service obligation. And the good thing for as far as that's concerned, for the purpose of the transfer of education benefits, the soldier can extend or re-enlist outside the normal window. The third requirement is for a most active duty soldier, that's not a problem. They have to have 90 days of active duty time. For reservists, that can be a problem. Mr. Huther, I'll let you answer that one um, with the 90 days. And then the final requirement is the soldiers on the day of their request cannot be under a negative action flag or adverse action flag. So those are the 4 requirements. Mr. Huther, if you want to expend on that 90 days for the reservists.
Yes, the 90 days for reservists tends to be really tricky to get, especially for enlisted soldiers, because according to the law, their basic training in AIT doesn't count towards eligible time until they've reached 24 months of active duty service. So a regular reservist who's only doing the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year, it's very hard to find the 90 days of additional active duty somewhere, unless they happen to deploy, go on some sort of active duty orders for special work, or something like that. We've had mostly officers that really run into the problem where they have 18 years of service, 19 years of service in the reserves, good years of service, and yet they have 89 days of active duty. And they are not qualified for post 9/11 GI Bill. And if they're not qualified for the post 9/11 GI Bill, then they can't transfer yet. They need the 1 more day of active duty somewhere. So that is a big problem that we run into. Another issue that needs to be brought up, I think, as well, is we have issues with blended families, soldiers who start their families late in life. Because for children to use the benefit, the soldier must have 10 years of service. So we've had individuals who are on their 14th year of service, and yet they haven't been married yet. So then they do get married. They're okay because they're over that 10-year limit. But we've had soldiers who are, say, 6 years in, but they're later in life. They've come in late to the service. They've come in their late 20s, and they haven't reached the 10 years of service yet. And yet they may have a 15-year-old child who's getting ready to go to college themselves, but they can't transfer to them because they haven't got the 10 years of service yet. So there's lots of little moving pieces that service members need to kind of look at to make sure they meet all of the requirements when they go on to Milk Connect and do their due diligence and read everything, and before they click that submit button to make sure that they will get approved the first time around.
I'm really glad that you brought up the Mill Connects, because I think that as a soldier who has gone on and transferred my benefits to my children, I think that was a really valuable resource. Number one, you have to go there to transfer your benefits. But the Q&A session that they have in there, I can't give kudos enough to how well it explains all those little tiny tidbits of, the ands, ifs, and buts that seem to fall into everything in life. So that really helps guide, 1, how to transfer, but 2, how to explain it to other soldiers. I don't see anybody really eating. Am I the only one chowing down over here? Because I've been eating they gave me smoked almonds, and then I kind of broke into dessert early. They gave me a maple muffin top, and I was in it to win it.
Well, I'm waiting for mine to warm up, and I'm looking for a rock or something to lay it up against, like the instructions say.
I'm usually too impatient, and so it's only half warmed up, and yeah.
So I was trying to eat the Skittles that came with it, but the Skittles is a brick of Skittles instead of individual Skittles, and and I'm also waiting for my MRE to heat up.
Everybody so far has gotten Skittles
Well,
except for me, Mr. Narain. You, I
Uh,
see,
yeah.
and you got M&Ms. What is happening in life?
No, and the best thing I ever did, full
You
size
got Skittles too.
Lipton candy bars. But the best thing is Tabasco. But they need a bigger they need a bigger bottle. It's too small.
The only thing they gave me was the gum in there.
No, they didn't give you Tabasco. That's like a
No.
defective MRE. I take it back. So
Okay.
I see the Army sawdust cookie has not improved much.
Was it?
I don't have that. I have
Is
TV,
it
baby.
bring back memories?
Yes, it's supposed to be an oatmeal cookie, but it tastes more like sawdust.
Oh, I love those things. Hey, can I tell you a funny story on a side of the first set of MREs that came out?
Let's hear it.
So, sorry, I'm an old guy, right? Now, Methuselah old. So when I came
Let's
in,
squirrel for a moment.
yeah. So when I came in, they had the original MREs without heaters, and they had the dehydrated fruit cocktail. I'm not sure if you remember what those were. I love those things, and I ate 7 of them before a 20-mile road march. And as you can tell, dehydrated fruit cocktail, rehydrating in your stomach on a 20-mile road march. I sucked down all of my water and my buddy's water, who was kind enough to let me have some water. And I almost died on that road march because I was dying of thirst at the end of that thing. So lesson learned. Here's my sign. So we gave you a lot of information. We're pushing a lot of information out. At the end of the day, we are the experts. You, the soldier out in the field, you don't have to know all the nuances of this program. The only thing you have to know is a couple of takeaways. Transfer at the 6-year mark. Don't wait. Don't say, hey, I'm holding on to the benefit because I may use it. Think of it as an insurance plan. It costs you nothing to transfer. You don't even have to use it. When you hit that transfer, you put another insurance policy. You put another option on the table that you may or may not use because that benefit always belongs to the soldier. The other thing that we get quite often, the confusion is soldiers tell us, well, I transferred my benefits, but I don't want to do any other changes because I don't want to incur another 4 years. The 4 years that you incur is a one-time charge. You can literally incur that 4 years and then get on Mill Connect every flipping day and make changes to your allocations if you want to, as many as you want, unlimited. The only provision is, and these are all these nuances, right? You have to have allocated at least 1 month to each one of your eligible dependents before you get out. If you left any of your dependents 0 when you got out, right? Say, for instance, and we see this all the time too. You transferred it to your wife or your spouse and 2 kids, but not kid 3 because kid 3 is a baby. And you didn't transfer it to kid 3 and you get out. Well, you can never, ever give kid 3 any benefits. You're barred because you left it at 0. So what we tell soldiers, and the takeaway for this, and I'm doing the old military stomping my foot, right, for the test question. Give all of your dependents at least 1 month. Whether you think they're going to use it or not, give them a month as a placeholder. You can always pull that back. If you decide to go to college, you can pull all of it back because the benefit always belongs to the soldier. In fact, it's not exactly a good thing to think about, but it's not even community property. So in a divorce, the court can't order a soldier to give up their post 9/11 benefits to their ex-spouse. It always belongs to you, the soldier. It is yours. And what we encourage soldiers to do is use TA, use the Army credentialing program, the Army Cool credentialing program, use any of the other myriad of benefits that the Army offers, and leave the post 9/11 job bill as a hedge for your dependents. And the other thing along those lines is, another question we get is, hey, I'm married to another soldier. Well, great. Gift it to each other because you can gift it to another soldier. And the other thing too we get is, hey, we've got 1 kid. We both want to give our kid post 9/11 job bill. Congratulations, you can. We've got some children out there who are the only child, and mom and dad, or whatever the flavor of your family, they give both. They give all of their benefits. You get up to 36 months. So the child gets 36 months times 2. So they're good to go all the way up to grad school and beyond. So that's not a hesitation. And then when in doubt, phone a friend. We've got our contact information. Reach out to us, ask questions. And then the other powerful tool, there's two powerful tools for the field. Number one, Sergeant Palmer, it's you guys, the retention NCOs. They can ask you. The other powerful tool is every installation has got an education office. And every month, in fact, my next meeting is next month. Every month, I have a meeting with through Army Access, the Army U. We do a monthly meeting with all of the Army installation education centers throughout the world. And we talk all of the incentives. So they're all of those education counselors at the installation level, they're right on with these programs, and they'll help you tailor make your program. So, all right, enough of me talking.
Well, I would like to stomp on the gifting it to all your children. I didn't do that. I have 4 children, and I did not. I transferred it to my spouse and nothing to my kids. And then I retired. Now they have no benefits. So, and my wife is not going to go to college. So, essentially, you know, I transferred, but the intended recipients of the benefit are either not wanting to use it or are no longer eligible because I didn't transfer the at least 1 month to my 4 children. Luckily, I found another way for them to go to college, and I've got 2 in college right now that are getting paid for a different way. But unfortunately, they're not eligible for the post 9/11 GI Bill. And here I am, the one who's supposed to be breaking the news to other people that they made the same mistake as I did. So, yeah, it's very important that you transfer at least 1 month to each of your eligible dependents to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry to hear that because that's rough. And that's what I try to tell people, because I learned about that a couple of years ago. I had gone to a training about the transfer of the post 9/11 and the forever benefit as long as you pass off 1 month. And so as soon as I had children, I passed 1 month to each kid. And it's so easy to do it. It really is. It's so easy to go Mill Connect, and it's like very user friendly. And you can go in there and switch up the months. I had to beat that into my husband, not literally, but I had to just every single day. I was like, go do a month on each one of them, please. Go do a month because we can give each one of our kids 24 months apiece. Am I doing that right? No, 18. So we can give them 36 months apiece because between the 2 of us. And I just got him to do it the other day.
Outstanding.
There's
happy.
There's another piece to that dual status families, military family goes, and I don't know how many emails and questions I had. A lot of times, the kids are only registered under one parent. So when the spouse then tries to transfer the benefits, they don't populate in Milk Connect, and then we get emails. I want to transfer to my children, but they're not they're not showing up in Milk Connect. The children have to be registered under both parents in DEERS. Now, you can designate under which parent is the primary benefits provider. But as Mr. Narain said at the very beginning, the children have to be DEERS eligible dependents. That means they have to be under both parents in DEERS.
Yep, absolutely.
When you a soldier encounters that and they don't see their dependents or they have the issue that Eric just described, just go to your one stop and they'll resolve it on their end. We're nested within the same office that handles all the CACs. So they control all the one stops and all the CAC issues. So we've learned a lot. In fact, we actually, when we encounter those issues, we actually go over to them and ask, because they control all the DEERS, all the Army DEERS Rapids machines. They control those. So it's our branch. I mean, our division is amazing. All Army awards are done in our division, by the way. So when you see all of those Civil War awards, all of those African Americans are, all the Medal of Honors are being issued to like Korean War vets and World War II vets. That's done in my division under the awards branch. So
And
there was
my,
a question. I don't want to miss this one. Hang on a second. I said, somebody posted, is there a GI Bill kicker that we can opt into while serving to increase GI Bill benefits? If so, is there a resource to do so? My installation education center was unsure about it. I'm gonna punt this to Eric. Eric, take it away.
so um, it didn't. The individual didn't specify if it was active duty or selected reserve. The
Tough luck.
selected the selected reserve have their own kickers, which you can reenlist for. Now, as far as the Montgomery GI Bill active duty Chapter 30 is concerned, there is the $600 buy up or buy-in program. And oops, sorry, got a visitor. This is Rooster, by the way.
Hello, Rooster.
Um, yeah, he's from Real. So yeah, the $600 buy-in. If I remember correctly, it's you get $1 in extra benefits for every $2 you invest. So yes, you can do it. You would have to go to education center, complete the paperwork, and then submit it to the
You'd
education
have to be
center.
under the MGIB program, right? MGIB AD.
Yeah, right. So it's Chapter 30. One problem with that is if you transfer your benefits to your dependents, you just lost those $600.
So what Eric's saying is that if you decide to, because when you contact the VA is going to ask you, because remember they control both the Montgomery GI Bill active duty and the post 9/11 GI Bill. They're both Title 38 programs. So when you contact the VA, they're going to ask you which program you want to use. If you say post 9/11 and you've enrolled in the Montgomery GI Bill active duty, the Title 30 program, and you bought a kicker for that program, when they transfer you, all the money that you've invested in that kicker will be lost. So at the end of the day, there's no kicker that goes with the post 9/11 GI Bill because it doesn't need a kicker. The way the post 9/11 works is you go on the VA website and that cheat sheet that I sent you, Sergeant Palmer, has got some links to what's called the Yellow Ribbon Program. This is how powerful the Yellow Ribbon Program is. So the post 9/11 GI Bill, it's called Chapter 33 of the VA benefits. It can only pay the in-state tuition for that state. So, well, what if I want to go to private school? Well, you can go to the Yellow Ribbon Program on the VA website, plug in the school you want to attend, and it will tell you if that school participates in the Yellow Ribbon Program. By the way, I tell you that Harvard participates in the Yellow Ribbon Program. And what that does, yes, crazy, isn't it? What that does is Harvard, if you're a post 9/11 GI Bill attendee, they will lower their tuition to the in-state tuition. They'll eat that delta. That's the Yellow Ribbon part.
You
And
would
they'll lower
not
their
expect
tuition.
Harvard to do that.
Yeah, well, because it's Uncle Sam free cash, right?
Mhm.
So they'll lower their tuition to that in-state tuition value and then allow you to go to school there and use the post 9/11. And you'll still get your housing stipend at the E5 rate with dependents, and you'll still get your book stipend per year, which is paid directly to you, both of those. So literally you can send your kid to Harvard, or you can go to Harvard on the post 9/11 GI Bill, and granted all the other fees and stuff like that you will have to pay, but all in all, you're going to get your BH housing stipend at the E5 with dependents rate. You're going to get that plus your book stipend. So more than likely, you're going to make money going to Harvard, which is crazy if you think about it. Hence the reason my wife went to law school at $160,000 education, because U of L, we're in Kentucky, so she went to Louisville, U of L. They normalized their tuition for in-state. So we literally got paid for her to go to law school. Crazy.
Ray, I would like to add in the Army College Fund.
Yeah.
Which, that can get added into the Montgomery GI Bill Chapter 30. So when someone enlisted, now this is mostly for the soldiers who were enlisted prior to 2012, because Army College Fund has been suspended since 2012. They can get additional monies under Montgomery GI Bill And if they converted to PGIB post 9/11, they can still receive their Army College Fund in addition to the housing allowance under Chapter 33. But there's a couple of things that they have to make sure that is correct, that their code can be viewed by the VA. We have lots of problems where the VA does not see the Army College Fund code that is entered in the system, mostly because most of the soldiers who are eligible for Army College Fund, they enlisted when everything was still being done on paper before we went electronic. So their codes were never entered into the system. So they could send us an email and we can verify if they have it by checking the records, or they can go through the VA and try and get it done that way. But that's another form of a kicker. It's not officially called a kicker because it's the Army College Fund, but the VA treats it as a kicker. So that is something that's available to soldiers who were eligible on their first enlistments prior to 2012 if they qualified for it.
Just a keynote though, the Army sunset that program. So if you're a new soldier, you just got to check your eligibility. There's a question on the chat that says, why does distance learning count? Why does distance learning count for full BAH benefits? In other words, why doesn't it count? I guess the question, why doesn't distance learning count for full BAH? So the way the VA calculates, and again, when we get questions like this dealing with VA calculations, we'll send soldiers to the VA because at the end of the day, it's their decision. We can give kind of the theory about what the VA is thinking, but ultimately the decision maker is the VA. So the reason why they pay what they call a national average for BAH, or the housing stipend for soldiers who are not attending say they're doing a distance learning training. My understanding from the VA is because you're not attending that brick and mortar school, you're not in that area. It's like, for instance, you're attending NYU. So you're not going to get NYU, you're not going to get New York E5 housing stipend, right? Because you're in Kentucky. Say you're in Louisville, Kentucky. You're going to get the national average. So that's why they do that. They pay a national average for distance learning. And you've got to be very careful because I have had to give deposition on two cases involving BAH fraud. It's crazy, I know, but two soldiers unfortunately decided to try and game the system and got popped for BAH fraud. And one of those was falsifying attendance of a brick and mortar school. They were actually attending a distance learning school. I use New York because they use New York. They were they listed attending a school in New York, but they weren't in New York. So they got hit. So don't lose your career over that. But that's why the VA looks at that as if you're distance learning, you get the national average. You don't get the brick and mortar location. And then there's another question below that. Can I transfer my GI Bill benefits to my spouse after reaching 6 years of service as a staff sergeant? Even if I have a DROS in 2027 overseas, putting me at 9 years of service, would I need to, yes. So would I need to extend so that I have the 4 years? Great question. I'm doing my foot stomp, my happy dance, and my cheetah flips right now. That's a great question because, yes, you have to have, at the time of your request, we call it sufficient retainability. You must have 4 years of credible service left on the clock. So now, and Sergeant Palmer, Sergeant Nunez, Master Sergeant Nunez, for all of the career counselors out there, we have established early on in the program a provision to allow soldiers to break their enlistment contract, to re-enlist, strictly for the purpose to get qualified for transfer. So say, for instance, this soldier has less than 4 years in their clock. They have a good maybe 3 years, right? If they want to break, they can break their contract, re-enlist. And when we tell soldiers to do this, we tell them to re-enlist for more than 4 years. We say to do it for 4.5 years. And the reason why is By the time all the paperwork gets done, all the dust is settled, right? By the time they get to the point to resubmit their request to us, we have to have those 4 years. We've had soldiers who do just a 4-year reenlistment, right? And then they get to us and they have 3 years, 11 or 12 months or 11 months and 20 days. And we got to tell them, we've got to deny you again because you don't have 4 years. So do 4.5 years. We cover the base, you come back to us. And then if you're going to do it immediately, tell us when we send you the rejection. We'll say, hey, look, I'm going to reenlist, and we'll put you in what's called a pending status. We'll pend you for 10 days, and that's enough time for you to get your paperwork and send it back and make contact to us. And then what that does is it holds your space, because remember, once you get approved, your approval date, your 4-year clock starts on the date of your request, right? So if you submitted a request and then you have to go back and get reenlisted, and then by the time you come back to us, 2 weeks could go by, right? So we want to give you that credit for that original request date so you don't lose that time. So let us know so we can work with you, in other words. Does that make sense? Clear as mud?
Clear as mud.
Yeah, if I can add to that, when we send you the emails that, hey, we've pended you for 10, 14 days, you have a suspense date. So communicate with us if you cannot meet that suspense date. All right. Communication is the key, because after whatever the suspense date is, we're going to cut you off. And then you have, we had people come back 6 months later. It's like, nope, we gave you suspense date. You didn't meet it. You didn't communicate with us. And we're not backdating to 6 months.
And I'll tell you why, because when we tell you no, because, all right, this is my bias. So when I was in uniform, way back in the dark ages, right, when we had muskets, I had a view of HRC, this big personal entity in the sky. Never dreamed I'd be working for HRC because I spent most of my time in combat arms, right? And yeah, so I had this image of fuzzy, white-haired ladies with fuzzy bunny slippers walking around who'd never been in boots before, right? You don't have an idea what soldiers go through. Now I'm in HRC, right? So that's the humor of all of this. And I tell soldiers, and this is our meeting in which we tell you soldiers, we are vets. We're Army vets. Mr. Huther is, how many years you have under your belt? You're a chemical NCO. You were Graves and registration. What's your background?
Total 29 years, 20 of active, 10 as an NBC NCO, and my last 10 was as a mortuary affairs specialist.
So not the guy not that you would see him, and as mortuary affairs specialist, the people we need, but someone I really don't want to, actually meet. Yeah. But anyway, Eric, how many years you got in?
26 years. So, and I don't like to tell people no, but you got to work with us, communicate with us, so we can make the arrangements. Just like Mr. Rain said, Army is family.
Yeah, don't go net silent on us. Stay up on comms. Let us know what's going on in your world, and we'll adjust with you. But if you go net silent on us, to give you an idea of what my bandwidth is. So I have a small team because the Army loves doing more with less, right? So I have 3 contractors that process TEB requests. We process, and Sergeant Yunus gets an earful of this, we process about 1,400 requests a month. And then I have my GS staff, which I have 3 GS, and we handle all the requests, a lot of the questions. The VA will ask us questions because we're the SME for the Army, for our area. And we run all of that. So I don't have a huge team. So I don't have the capacity to hold some soldier on a pend list for a month. I've got to make a decision to move on. So stay up in comms with us, and we'll work with you. There was a question here, another good question. Can you use your GI Bill for a PhD, a psych degree, anything higher than a master's degree? I'm going to punt this. Oh, before I go, alibi. there is one person that you don't see on this net, and that's Miss Kristen Lahara. It's a very integral part of our team. She's in the background. And Kristen, a funny story, she punched out at E4, but when she was at HRC, she was a soldier of the quarter. So high speed, low drag. I am surrounded by a brilliant team. Anyway, so about the PhD question, can I use the post 9/11 for anything higher than a master? Derek, I'm going to punt that to you.
Yes, you can. I used my post 9/11 for my master's degree.
Or
And
higher than a master's.
you can, if you have some left, if you need to, you can use it for your doctorate degree as well. It's also open if you want to do flight training, if you want to go to barber college, if you want to go to a business school, community college. It does not have to be a traditional 4-year institution of higher learning, aka a college. It can be anything else that the VA has determined and certified as higher education. So, if you want to become a pilot, go right ahead. You can learn how to fly on the GI Bill. A truck driver, you want to get your CDL, you can do that as well. I always joke with my daughter that I'm going to cut her hair. And she gets mad because she's afraid I'm going to screw it up somehow. And I says, well, what if I went to the cosmetology school and graduated? Would she let me do it? And she says, yes, only then I would allow you to cut my hair. So, I've got some time left. Maybe I'll sign up for the cosmetology school in Elizabethtown and go to school for 12 months so I can cut her hair.
Maybe a high and tight, but her hair will be cut.
Oh, yeah, it might be. Yeah. So the VA will pay for a lot of education, not just your normal associate, bachelor, master's, doctorate degrees. There's a lot of other things too that you can use with the post 9/11 GI Bill.
That's interesting.
And Saran Palmer, yes, you can share the slide deck if you want.
Awesome. Okay. So we had a really productive session where we didn't even break into, we didn't do the old school PowerPoint slides. And this was just, it was real. It was raw. It was answered questions as they came, which is fantastic. So what Mr. Narain was giving me the thumbs up on was there is a slide deck created that their team created, that gives you just a visual representation of the three different GI Bill programs. So you can kind of capture the three different ones, the stipulations, individual qualifications, and all the ands, ifs, and buts that come with all of them. So if you want that slide deck, we can just either, we'll drop it in the comments section for you guys, or send us a DM to our page. Send us a DM and we'll shoot you that slide deck to you. It's super easy to do that for you guys. Does that slide deck also have your guys' contact information?
It has our 3 group email boxes.
Perfect. Group mailboxes are the way to go. So that how they kept expressing, keep them on the net and don't leave them out to dry. That contact information is there for anybody watching or that does watch. I think we had...
I thought I saw a question. Somebody was asking about what happens if they have a disability.
Yeah, Mark asked
that one's coming. But really fast before we jump into that, we have. I just want to reiterate really fast or re-clarify for the audience watching that the SRR is from the date that they elect to transfer. Right, the day that they go in Mill Connect and they elect their transfer. That is when the SRR of the 4 years, so SRR service remaining requirement, you are required to serve 4 years from that date. A soldier does not have to wait for a rejection notice to go see their counselor to meet that SRR. The day you transfer, that's the day that you have that SRR, and you ultimately want to make sure you have that time before you elect, because then you're just pending a rejection.
Right.
Am I right on that?
So the SRR only kicks in upon approval.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we had soldiers, well, I went in and submitted my request on such and such date. That's the start of my additional service obligation. Well, the catch was he didn't get approved. So therefore he didn't incur the service obligation. And then he thought he was serving his 4 years. And at the 10-year mark, he came back and said, "Hey, I served my 4 years." No, you didn't, because you didn't supply us the paperwork. We couldn't approve your request. So you're now have to re-request and do another 4 years.
And that's a critical thing. Read our comms, read the email that we send you, because it has all of the success in there. And if you have any questions, come back up on the net and ask, because if we tell you no and you're rejected, we'll always tell you why. And we'll tell you if it can be fixed. You got a negative action flag. It says get the flag removed. And we have soldiers do that, because when we transitioned to IPSE, we found out that, which seems like forever, not that long ago, that IPSE brought up old flags and reactivated them and attached them to soldiers. So all of a sudden, Soldier A is applying for tab, and we see them as a height and weight failure. Well, they were a height and weight failure when they were private, 3 years ago. And IPSE brought it back into the system and reapplied it. So we had to work with IPSE to get that issue resolved. So, if you get no and it doesn't make sense, understand that there are glitches in IPSE, because we're tied to IPSE. And then come up on the net and tell us, and then we'll help you resolve it, because we're with an HRC and we'll run the traps on that. But if it's no, it's no. And then if you get rejected, then the clock restarts. The clock only starts when you get approved, like Eric said, to drive that point on. And I drive this point constantly, which is the soldier earns the post-9/11 GI Bill because of their active duty service. The ability to transfer to an eligible dependent is a retention incentive that requires that 4 years. That's in the law, Public Law 110-252. It's not Army policy. It's Army policy is based on that law. Makes sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that was fantastic. Okay. So we're reaching 7 p.m. We, like I said, we went a little non-traditional, which I think was awesome. I had a great time with you guys, where instead of, going through the traditional briefing style, it was just engaging the audience with Q&As the whole way through, which I find that really beneficial anyways. But we had a surprise. We had a surprise for everybody, and we were going to start our Q&A with a special guest. So we're going to bring him on, and he's going to give us our final question. Mr. Mark Thompson, prior Senior Army Career Counselor. Welcome.
So,
Sergeant Major retired.
thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
He's mute.
Are you muted? Or
He's
Mark,
muted.
you're muted.
Come on, wizard. Unmute. That is it.
I don't think your mic got connected when you did your settings to join.
Now he's
So
frozen.
there he is. So we'll give you just a minute. So if you go in your settings and you check your microphone, you might not have set up your mic when you jumped in, since we did a surprise there. While we're waiting on him to see if he can get it fixed,
He's on
we
mute.
did have. Oh, we got you.
Yeah.
So yeah, just all the talk of education. I just went with my favorite house, Gryffindor, to ask about education question, which I think is good. I can ask this to Headmaster Noreen or any of the other houses that are on here. I see Mr. Derek Kuthers Slytherin. Eric is with the cat that jumped up. You got to be Ravenclaw. So, but anyway, if I transferred my education benefits and I've already got my 6 years in, it's all good, and I'm waiting to serve the full 4 years, and I accidentally look in my wand and do a Lumos Maximus, and I get medically separated before my 4 years is up, do my kids get to, do my muggles, do they get to keep the GI Bill or the post-9/11 transfer, even though I didn't do the 4 years?
That's a great
That's a
question.
great question.
And I'll slip you my 20 when we meet for that question. And look at it, you're frozen now. There you
My magic isn't as strong.
go. So I love this question. So if you're getting rifted, unfortunately, by the needs of the Army, i.e., you're not medically retained, or even your MOS is being, you're being rifted because of reductions, like we were doing through when we did the drawdowns starting in 2011, 2013. And you have an approved tab, and that's the key. The key is the foot stomp again. I'm stomping my foot. You have an approved tab, a transfer. Then if the Army's saying, thank you for your service, but we don't need you anymore, then you get to keep the benefit. You are go at this station.
Gryffindor wins.
That's right.
All
You
house points
collect your
come right here.
$100. You pass go. Now on the dark side, that's because if there's a light side of the force, there's the dark side, right? So on the dark side of the force, if you did not request a transfer, so you do not have an approved transfer, an approved tab, we call it Transfer of Education Benefits tab, TEB, and you do a ruck march, you go air assault as our high-speed low drag Sergeant Palmer wants to jump out of airplanes and go to airborne school, and you get injured and you don't have an approved transfer, then you are barred from transferring while you're in that medical evaluation, the IDES process, while the Army is medically evaluating you through the Physical Disability Agency to determine if you're retained. While you're in that process of being evaluated, you are barred from requesting a transfer until you are found fit for duty. If you are found unfit for duty, then you remain barred from transferring and you're processed out in a medical retirement. That's the risk, and that is exactly why we tell soldiers don't wait. Can I tell you a war story?
Let's hear it.
It broke my heart, and then it made me do the, yeah, we won.
Okay, I'm glad you gave that disclaimer because I was like, don't give us a sad one right at the end.
No. Okay. E7, Great American, immigrant to the United States from Africa, came to the U.S. Same story as me because I'm an immigrant too. I joined the Army for God and country because America to me is the land of milk and honey. Came here when I was 10, and joined the Army because I love this country so much. I'm willing to defend it. And
you joined the Army when you were 10 years old? So
I did, yeah. I probably would have because the Army's cool. But no, I joined when I was 19. But at 10 years old, I knew I wanted to be a soldier though. But I wanted to do 3 years. I'm just bad at math. 23 years, 28 years. What's the difference? Anyway, so E7, he made contact with us, and for whatever reason, we denied his tab. And then he fired an email because we keep all of our email in a database. He said, "Well, that's okay. I want to use the benefit for myself." And then fast forward 6 months later, we were able to do something to approve his tab. I forgot exactly what it is. I slept since then. However, God forbid this happens to anybody. 6 years later, he contracted a very aggressive cancer. Don't know where it came from. Very, very aggressive cancer. This issue went all the way up to the SEC Army, the SA, went to ARBA, the Army Review Board, and then came to us. We had to do the entire forensics on this soldier's case. We found that we were able to approve his transfer. We got his transfer approved, got his family loaded into the program the day before he died.
Oh.
So a sad story in that his 3 children lost their dad, but we were able to take care of that Army family. And he died. He got told before he lost consciousness, "You're good to go." He was worried about this. "You're good to go. Your transfer is secured. We've taken care of you and your family's taken care of." And the next day he passed away. So don't wait. You never know what life throws your way. Don't wait. Put that in as insurance. Put 1 month to each one of your dependents. If they never use it, that's okay. We have people come back to us all the time. "Hey, I gave my oldest son or daughter post-9/11job bill benefits. They went to ROTC and now they're a second lieutenant. Can I pull it back? Yeah, you can pull it back because they've got their own post 911. They don't need yours. Or they can use yours. They can use yours for a degree because they still have it, and then use their own to do a follow-on degree if they want to. That's how powerful this thing is. So it is really flexible. Does that answer the question? Do I get a gold star?
Yes, absolutely.
Good.
Awesome. That was, oh, I'm glad you gave the disclaimer. But powerful. I think it leaves, this conversation on such a meaningful note of how important this benefit is to families and to the ones that we will one day leave behind. It's a powerful thing to be able to give to somebody. So I think that was like the perfect story to kind of start wrapping it up. I say wrapping it up, but I've got one final question that I think is super easy to answer. I think it's like crazy and crazy easy. So I just want to hit it really fast. Where did it go? Can I use my GI Bill on active duty?
You can, but why would you want to? When you have
That's fair.
other opportunities, other benefits to use. TA, the COOL program, credentialing programs.
Teaming programs. There are educational release programs that allow you to go get your master's degree. You can apply. These are programs that you can reach out to and apply. Fellowship programs. Why would you want to use this valuable benefit, this incentive, really, it's an incentive, when the Army has all these others? And by the way, are you familiar with the Army COOL program? The credentialing program?
Mm-hmm.
So
Fantastic.
you can go out and get an HVAC certification on the Army dime, and it's not rank dependent. I know the program manager for that program. She's a retired MP, super trooper, and very passionate also about the program. And we've got 06s that reach out and want to go get an HVAC license because they can get an HVAC license and get certified on the Army dime, and it doesn't even come with a time requirement. In other words, you can get, if the money's available and you qualify, in other words, you sign onto the program early because it's funding dependent. You can literally go get a HVAC license on the Army dime, really for free. Crazy.
That's awesome. It's crazy. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, we're almost 10 over time, which I mean, extremely worth it. I can't express how thankful I am for you guys spending the evening with us because I think that this was extremely valuable insights, and getting to hear it straight from you guys is super cool. So Mr. Narain, Mr. Huther, Mr. Lohoff, Mr. Thompson, Miss Lahara are behind the scenes, just amazing whiz. Her and Master Sergeant Nunez were the ones kicking us the questions. So that way we could just keep this going. So we thank you two very, very much. We appreciate you guys spending your evening with us. We know that it's possibly spring break. We know it's just after the holiday. So to spend, an hour with us is much appreciated. As I mentioned before, if you want that slide deck, we'll drop it in the chat or in the comments, but also, send us a DM and we'll send it your way in an email if you prefer that too. We'll get that over to you so you have that information. I hope you were able to take something away from this. And if you have any questions, reach out. They are more than available, and then we're more than available as well. Your career counselor is a fantastic resource to figure out, what is a good play for you at that time. But as Mr. Narain kept saying, once you hit that 6-year mark, don't wait. Why not? So with that, we look forward to seeing you guys on our next episode. And if you have an idea of something that you want to come on and watch, drop it in the comments. Let us know what you want to hear about, and we can try to make that happen. We appreciate you guys, and we hope you have a fantastic night. Take care.